Welcome to my show. I'm a guest here. Her name is Samantha Forte. Mrs. Samantha, how are you doing, ma?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you very much, Mrs. Samantha. So happy to speak with you. Firstly, you are a neurodivergent mother. You are also a music therapy. Can you please, Samantha, discuss more about yourself and how you are doing currently now, Samantha?
Yeah, so I have been a board certified music therapist for 14 years, and I'm also a parent consultant. So I work with parents raising neurodivergent kids, and we just find solutions. I educate about what neurodivergence is, positive parenting strategies, all of that. I have three kids that are diagnosed with ADHD, autism, and auditory processing disorder. And then I also have ADHD and OCD. So I'm very familiar with the neurodivergent community.
Familiar, and I'm also glad that you and your children are doing great today. It's a really, really big pleasure. And I also like to dive to the point of book. From your experience as a music therapy, a ADHD person, and even with your kids as a mother who is trying to guide his or her kid. Like, how do you have you written any book, or are you planning to write any book, Mrs. Samantha?
Yes, I'm actually writing a couple books. So I have a podcast called Every Brain is Different, and we're writing a companion book to go with that. So we'll write a little bit about the you know, episode, and then we'll write journal questions that you can answer that might help you reflect on how to help your own family. And then I don't know what the other book you could call it, like a memoir slash book to just for resources. So I'll talk about like music therapy and my experience with music therapy and how that helps neurodivergent people. And then occupational therapy, my experience with that and how that can help your child with, that's neurodivergent. And so it's just talking about my experiences and then where you can find those resources.
That's very, very, very inspiring. Thank you so much, Mrs. Samantha. And that's very, very inspiring. And I would like to dive to the point of the neurodivergent when you first realize that you are neurodivergent, and what when you first realize that your kids too are neurodivergent. I would like to ask, when did you first recognize the signs of neurodivergence in yourself and in your child, Samantha?
So when I was younger, I was like, something is wrong with me because I had a lot of intrusive thoughts. And I was like, this is what an evil person does. Like, and so I thought that something was different. And then I was always very hyper in my brain. I wasn't like hyper on the outside. I did really good in school, but my brain was constantly going, and I'd always like have this just I didn't want to interrupt people, but it was like something that I couldn't keep in. I like interrupted people a lot and I talked a lot. I talked really fast. And then I always felt like people didn't like me, even though people were my friends. But I was told, oh, that's normal. You're fine. Everyone feels that way. And then when I was in my 20s, I got diagnosed with OCD because I was talking to my counselor about it. And I was like, I am having all these intrusive thoughts. Like, I have to do this, I have to do this. And she's like, it sounds like you have OCD. And that was so freeing to me to realize that, like, it wasn't typical to have these experiences. It was OCD. And then actually listened to a podcast about OCD, and it really helped me connect with that community and like accept myself and realize that, oh, like, this isn't how everyone is. Like, this can be, like differences. And then when I was in my 30s, I was watching a lot of TikToks and a lot of ADHD content came up. And I was like, oh, wow, do I have ADHD? Like, I didn't think I did because I always did really well in school. I never was hyperactive or anything like that. But through watching other people's experiences, I was like, oh, I think I have ADHD. And so I got diagnosed with that. And then with my kids, when my oldest was 2 months old, he wasn't making eye contact. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't doing any of like those social things that babies do. And so the doctor was like, well, maybe we might want to think about autism. And so then we watched him develop. We obviously didn't diagnose him when he was 2 months old, but around, he was like 2.5, and he still was exhibiting things that were autistic qualities. And so we got him assessed and then got him diagnosed. And then the same with my other two. Actually, with my daughter, I didn't think she had autism, but her occupational therapist was like, she doesn't play with other people and she doesn't really do pretend play and she doesn't really engage with other people. And so you might want to get her assessed. And so that's when we got her assessed and she was diagnosed too.
Oh, that's really, really so definitely not easy as a mother when you realize that the kids to also have those pattern. That means for someone to know if he or she is neurodivergent or even in the type of ADHD, the signs will be there. The person will see the signs that it's like I'm being different with others. You like there are some patterns that are going on that one has to quickly realize very early that something is wrong somewhere. And the best thing, what you did, you went to seek for help, and they told you like something is wrong. They told you you had the OCD, if I can remember. So I would
Mhm.
like to also dive to the point of you're now a mother. You are taking care of children who are also in the point. What do you think are the personal challenges, as a mother from your experience could face, other people who are also listening? What do you think they can face and from your experience? There will be definitely be difference. The way you were a child, the way you are, you behave when you have this I'll call it OCD or neurodivergent. It is different from the way you have like it is different when you are an adult. You understand? So a child and an adult probably there might be difference or them it might just look the same. So do you think there are difference when it comes to childhood and adult neurodivergent, and what challenges do you think you face as a mother that you think the audience could learn from, Mrs. Samantha?
Yeah, so I think that as kids who are neurodivergent, as we grow up into adults, we just get coping skills. And a lot of that is masking who we really are. And so that can create issues. So a lot of women don't get diagnosed with like ADHD until they're in their mid 30s because they had all these coping skills. They were masking, but then they get kids and the kids overwhelm them, overstimulate them, and then their coping skills go out the window. And so they're like, "Ah, something is happening." And so I think for a lot of people, they're like, "Oh, I'm fine because I have my coping skills and nothing's going on." Like, and I wouldn't say anything's wrong with you. You're just different than the typical person. And so you feel like something's wrong with you, but I would just say it's differences. But what's really hard as a parent for me has been trying to justify my parenting to people who just don't get it. So, for example, I'll go to a dinner and my kids are very picky about their food. The doctor has said, I don't care what they eat, just get them to eat something because they're losing weight. They're not growing because they're not
Mm,
eating things. And so, if we go to a dinner and I give them a bunch of rolls to eat because they're not going to eat Aunt Ellen's like Jello salad with all the stuff in it, um, then that's fine. If they just eat rolls and meat, that's what they're going to eat, and that's okay. But it's justifying yourself. It's so exhausting to have to justify yourself to other people. Or my kids are in occupational therapy and counseling and speech therapy. Not all of them, but those are all the things that we have to support them and just justifying, well, why do your kids have to go to those therapies? They don't need those therapies. They should be playing sports and they should be in gymnastics and they should be doing this. I'm like, my kids don't want to be in sports and they don't want to, like, they like playing sports, but they don't like people watching them play sports. And so why would I put them on a team, you know? And so it's just feeling alone in your parenting. And so
mm,
what's really helped me is I'm part of this group called Idaho Autism Moms on Facebook. And being in that group has really helped me because you can go on there and see that other people are going through the same things as you. And so that's why I started my community, the parenting your neurodivergent kid community, just so parents would have a place to come and talk to each other and get the support they need and not feel judged.
I'm so glad that you put every support that you need to the kids. It's very important. They do need that support, and I'm very impressed that people can understand that the support for the children when it comes to neurodivergent is very important, and community also play a role, as you said on a Facebook group, and you creating your own community today, which is very very powerful. It really really helps one in one way or the other. I'm so glad on that. And I also like to dive to the point of, you know, what you feel like people wish to know, people wish to understand when it comes to autism, when it comes to neurodivergent. What do you think there's one thing, if there's anything that you wish people could know, should have understand more better about neurodivergence in both children and adults, Samantha?
I think that what's often misunderstood is that people think that kids with autism don't want to have friends. They don't want to be a part of something. They don't want to have that community. When in reality, they do want that community. They just don't know how to join in on that community for the most part. So, my daughter goes to preschool. She does not talk to any of the kids there. But then she comes home and she's like, this is my friend, and this is my friend, and this is my friend. And so she thinks that she's friends with them, but then they don't interact with her because they'll say hi to her and she just won't say anything back because she's so nervous. She has so much anxiety that she can't respond to them. And so I think that's just one thing that people can learn, that people with autism want to be a part of a community. They just don't know how, for the most part.
Honestly speaking, and that was also what dived me to the point of, people. I've heard a time that they said, it doesn't have a cure. Is that correct? Is it true that it doesn't have a cure?
Yeah, I don't think that autism needs a cure.
Mm.
But they don't have a cure for it. Like there's no way to get the autism out of you,
Mhm.
you know? So I just think that people with autism need support and understanding and to be taught like this is how neurotypical people act. So this might be what you're running into. And then I also think that neurotypical people need to learn how neurodivergent people act too. Like for example, it's been said that when a neurotypical person is saying a story, a neurodivergent person might say a story back to show that they understand what that person is going through. But then the neurotypical person might be like, well, that was rude. You just made the conversation about yourself. Where the neurodivergent person is just trying to connect with the neurotypical person, you know?
Yes, I think people that are neurodivergent, people could really misunderstand them if someone is engaging with it, if someone doesn't know that they are in that position. Because this is the person I'm talking to now, and tomorrow it just changes. It
Yeah.
might be pissing off sometimes, but they do not know that that is how the person is. They might think the person is doing it intentionally, whereas the person they know that is just the nature of the
Yeah.
person. This is what people need to understand. Honestly speaking, it's very important, and it's a very very it's a very, very difficult time, but we hope that things continues to improve in the coming future. And with this, a lot of mothers, I know you've been improving, community has been helping you. For those who still feel like they are isolated, they are in a position, probably a parent, it could be anyone. It could be someone who's taking care of a child that is in that position, that feel overwhelmed that, what can I do? It's just, they feel like I would not just want to use them, but they feel very, very overwhelmed and not happy currently. What advice do you think you can give to such people to also bring them hope from the experience you've had, Mrs. Samantha?
Yeah, I would say find your community. Like if you have family to help you, definitely lean on them. If you don't have family that understands, then find friends in the community. I rely a lot, like I said, on that Facebook group. And then, I have my community where people can come and they can ask questions. I would just say find a community of people that get it. And I would start with like just Googling your area. support groups for autism or something like that. Or ask your pediatrician, ask your doctor, say, hey, do you know of any support groups or do you know of any groups that get together or anywhere that I can get support? And I would just start with that.
Hmm. Very great insight. Thank you so much for that, Mrs. Samantha. It's very important. Bringing, just getting a community, getting people that could, so that one will not feel alone. Someone will feel
Yeah.
like other people are also facing the same situation. It can't be only us that will be facing it. Other people will also be facing it. And that is what they need to understand so that they can feel motivated. Thank you so much for that insight, Mrs. Samantha. Mrs. Samantha, there's a question I normally ask during the end of the show. From our forefathers, from our fathers who have passed on during the historic time, there are a lot of things that do exist during our forefathers' time that is missing. A lot of it is missing in our time today. Great things. If there is anyone or anything you would like to bring back to our time today, what do you think that thing would be, Mrs. Samantha?
I would just say, and I don't know if this is just me assuming things, but just I feel like our lives have sped up. And so just slow down, take it one day at a time, and don't be in such a hurry to do everything. Like if your kid is in a therapy, don't expect overnight results. Like it's a slow process. So just kind of take things slow. Don't worry about getting everything done right now because that can feel very overwhelming. Like if you get, and then focus on one thing at a time. Like there are so many resources for kids with autism and other neurodivergent diagnoses that you can't use all the resources. So pick one, start with that. And then if you want to add other ones, add that. But just take things slow. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I completely agree. A lot of people are, this body is always shaking. Like, let me see the next result. Let's see the results. Patience is
Yes.
important. Patience is very, very important so that the right information and the necessary details will come out in the right time. Because if we
Mm-hmm.
rush everything, everything could go in the way we might not expect. So coming down to see the results, whether is we know we love our kid. Every parent love their kids. So they are always in this type of position that I want to see what is going on. You understand? But that patience is very, very important. That will bring out the necessary information and help the person who is also bringing this information to do it very, very calmly. So you could bring the necessary details out. That is a very, very good insight. Thank you so much, Mrs. Samantha. I want to also sincerely thank you. It is not an easy thing. I'm surprised that things like this, people like this do exist. So it's also give me a lesson that it's not everything I over exaggerate with. There are some people that they might not even know that they are in that position. So having this type of education is it's mean a lot, even to the audience and also myself. I also want to thank you for the time and the opportunity you've given to me and the audience. Thank you so much, Mrs. Samantha.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm happy to be here.
All right, Mrs. Samantha. Bye bye.
Bye.